Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is Bronx Net's program. We talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists, and we also talk to authors. And this evening, we have a great show. We have two great people. In our second segment, we have a woman who wrote a book about Co-op City and the history. Here it is, the Freedom Land and the history of Co-op City. In our first segment, one of my longtime friends in the Bronx, he runs the Latino Sports website and the Latino Sports Ventures, and they write a ton of stuff and they put out a ton of stuff and they support Latin ball players. And not only, I'm thinking baseball now because it's the summertime, but in every sport. My longtime friend, Julio Pabón, nice to have you with us, my friend. Mi amigo.
It's always a pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you, Gary. You've always been there, whether it's politics, whether it's sports, whether it's whatever. Gary always reaches out, man, to make sure that folks in the Bronx are in the loop on what's really happening.
Well, that was nice of you to say that. But listen, I'm real excited. Julio's talking to us from Dodger Stadium. We're recording this on Monday. It is past.
It's my
Julio
credential.
is there. He's going to be there for the Derby and, of course, for the All-Star game, which by the time this airs will have been passed. But what is real exciting is coming up this coming weekend is the Hall of Fame induction, in particular, three Latin ball players among the greatest of all time. It's been way too long since Mini Minoso and Tony Oliva were recognized appropriately for all of not only their skills but their contributions. And Big Papi, David Ortiz, is going in. We'll mention, of course, Gil Hodges, Jim Cott, Bud Fowler, and Buck O'Neill will be honored as well. But this is a big weekend for you, and you're bringing people up there, right?
Yes, and unfortunately, I'm here in LA, so I'm not there in the Bronx trying to get people to recognize that there's a bus because we started this because, first of all, the Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown, New York. Some people don't even know what Cooperstown is. I
Oh
never
my
heard of
goodness.
Cooperstown until I was like maybe my son was like 6, 7 years old, and he was in a little league, and I wanted to, like encourage him to baseball. So, I looked at the time. There was no GPS at the time. I had to get one of the old, like gas station maps and look
You're right, of course.
where is this place, Cooperstown, And I said, damn, this is far. So it's really a far drive. It's almost like 3.5, almost 4 hour drive, depending on which way you go, depending on traffic. So it's always a hassle to try to get to the Cooperstown. So whenever a Latino got inducted, I felt that there's a lot of people with medium incomes that just didn't, or for the sake of, comfort, didn't want to drive 3.5 hours to go to
That's right.
Cooperstown, then drive back. So I thought maybe a bus from the South Bronx would allow people who normally would not want to go to the Hall of Fame because of those inconveniences of the drive or the length or whatever, or they didn't have a car, they can come with us. And the first one we went for was when Orlando Cepeda got
Uh-huh.
inducted. Okay, that was the first time, and it was such a success. Orlando saw us. He was very happy.
Really?
Yeah, and then because we actually made some T-shirts, and he said, "You didn't ask me permission to put my face there, so you got to give me at
Really?
least a dozen of them. You got to give me a dozen of them."
So
So
you did that willingly.
we
But
gave him a
listen,
dozen shirts.
so let's just talk about Mini Minoso. And I'm going to tell you, as frankly a Jewish kid who grew up in the Bronx watching baseball, I knew of Mini Minoso. I was not aware that he was Cuban born. And Orlando Cepeda, you mentioned him, wrote in his autobiography that Mini is the one who made it possible for all of us Latins. He was the first Latin player to become a superstar. Just talk about the importance of Mini Minoso on the heels, frankly, of Jackie Robinson.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Miniman also he's one of the Latin players who's actually black. So he has those two, attributes to himself. Because if he would not speak, you would think he's African American, but he's not. He's Cuban. And the fact that when he came into baseball, and the fact that there were very few Latinos in baseball, he opened up the doors to many, not just because of the fact that he was one of the first, but because he was a hell of a player. And he was also like a good utility player. So he wasn't just used in one position. Many was able to play in various positions for the teams that he played for. And he was very well respected. He was a very quiet guy. He wasn't a controversial dude. He was very into the game. And he was like the perfect person to be there at the early periods to open up the the Doors, but all those that followed afterwards. So
I think
he should have been inducted a while back, and I'm glad that the Veterans Committee, got him in there.
I was about to mention that. Let's see. He signed with the Indians just before the 1948 season. Debuted in April of 1949. Played 11 seasons in the American League. Hit better than 308 times. Could you imagine how much money a guy who hits 308 times would be making right now? Was named to 9 All-Star games, 3 Gold Glove awards. I mean, the guy could do it all.
The numbers are there.
And I think he flew under the radar for so many of the players.
Yes.
So that's one guy. Now we're going in chronological order. Let's just. I looked up all the stats because they're so great. As
Good
a baseball
for you,
fan.
and I want you to repeat them because I want people who are watching this to understand how great these baseball players were.
Tremendous. And again, compared to what we see now, you're at another level. They didn't get off the field if they got a little cramp in their hamstring. I promise.
And Gary, they didn't have all of the science where these players today,
That's right.
before they get on the field, they have an entire almost breakdown of every pitcher. They know what every quirk of that pitcher is. They know that if the pitcher moves his left shoulder, he might throw a fastball. They know that if he touches his nose, it might be a curveball.
Of course.
They have all the information.
And then after
those guys didn't have that.
And then after the at bat, they run into the dugout and look at the video of what happened. Anyway, he retired with a .299 career batting average, 2,100 hits, 1,225 runs, 1,000 RBIs, 216 stolen bases. Thank goodness he's an American hero, and he paved the way for others. Now, there's a second Cuban player, Tony Oliva, and I remember as a kid saying, that guy
Minnesota. That's right.
Three of the inductees played for the Twins. Jim Cott, Big Poppy, and Tony Oliva had knee problems late in his career. He played 15 seasons, 3 batting titles. Think of if your team, doesn't matter who you root for, the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants, if your team had a guy who won 3 batting titles, they'd be a Hall of Famer right away.
Right. And he had a sweet swing. I mean, because he was a lean guy. He's not like a big guy like Big Poppy. So he was a lean guy. And his swing was like one of these sweet swings that you didn't know where he got his power from. But he was always like almost like a line drive hitter, and his hitting was impeccable.
Part of an integral part of that 1965 World Series team that won 7 games against the Dodgers. Let's see, 1964 Rookie of the Year, 8 All-Star appearances, 304 lifetime average. By the way, if you just tuned in, the reason we're doing this is because Latino Sports is taking a bus from the South Bronx to Copperstown to make sure that people can do things like celebrate, and Copperstown's a beautiful town.
We'll give you the details about that afterwards.
Anyway, much more current, Big Poppy, David Ortiz. I'm preaching to the choir. 4th Dominican player to be inducted in the Hall of Fame with Pedro Martinez, Vladimir Guerrero, and Juan Marichal. Of course, a winner, a 10-time All-Star, hit .289 in the postseason in 85 games. That's not easy to do. Won the ALCS MVP in 2004, World Series MVP in 2013, was well known for his speech after the Boston Marathon bombing to unite people. Talk about the figure that Big Poppy was and is still, obviously.
Well, let me tell you, we've had several events for Big Poppy because he won about 4 Latino MVP awards, the most prestigious award given, the oldest Latino award given to Latino baseball players. 32 years we're celebrating this year. Big Poppy has won like 4 or 5. And on the last one that we gave him, we had an event for him, a luncheon at Fenway Park. We got the area where they have we rented this beautiful area that the Fenway Park has to rent. Like we can have luncheons and dinners and stuff. And let me tell you who wanted to show up. We couldn't say no. We had the governor of Massachusetts.
Wow.
We had the mayor of Cambridge, the mayor of Boston. We had the president of the Boston Red Sox. We had the vice president of Boston Red Sox.
This is why I said he was a figure. He was more than just a great player. He was a figure.
he could have run for mayor and probably won in Boston, you know. But the thing about Big Papi is that he's such a humble dude. He's like a big teddy bear, you know.
Big
He looks
Papi.
this presence that he has of this big guy. He was so down to earth, man. I mean, I remember one time he was having his early period when in Boston. He was having a problem with the press. Um, and I walked up to him. He didn't know who I was. And I said to him, listen, I'm Julio Pabón from Latino Sports. And I just asked him a couple of questions. I said, by the way, I know you, he didn't want to talk too much to the press. I said, I know you don't want to talk to the press, but I'm not the typical corporate press. You know, I'm
That's
Latino
right.
Sports. So I want to talk to you. So he smiled. He gave me an interview. And I said, by the way, if you want to deal with the press, let me give you these hints. Because I used to do a
Oh,
training
I want to hear this too.
to help the players how to deal with the press. And I was told, look, the press is not your friend and the press is not your enemy. You just got to learn how to deal with them. But you know, one of the things to deal with them is always, you know, you never say no to a report or whatever. They want to talk to you, no problem. That opens up the gate right away because they're not feeling they're chasing you or that you are being like
That's right. Or that,
reluctant, you know.
Julio, before we run out of time, so let's see, you're picking up people at what time? And it's at 150th Street?
It's between 150th, 149th on the Grand Concourse.
Right.
We have a bus. If people are interested, they need to call. They need to send an email to get me so I can reserve the seat.
We'll
Okay.
put all that stuff on the screen
Yes,
for you.
and you have all the information.
Yeah,
But
of
the
course.
fact is that Big Papi, like you were saying, he is incredible. He's paying for Fernando Villalona, which is one of the great stars in the Dominican Republic, to come and perform after the All-Star, the Hall of Fame induction. So there's going to be this humongous party.
Wow.
The Dominican Republic is doing everything they can to promote this guy. So I think that there's going to be more Dominicans in Cooperstown than the population of Cooperstown.
Then the Bronx got to show up, man. Then it's got to be the people of the Bronx. Listen, before we go, I showed you this before. This is my JR's familiar jersey. If you hang out with Julio, you can get your favorite players to sign your favorite jerseys because he knows them all. That was when, I guess, 2016, he was honored by Latino Sports. Listen, Julio, you and I, we could talk baseball for a long time.
Yes,
and we only had a few minutes here. But listen, let's get people of the Bronx up there, represent 2 Cubans, 1 Dominican being inducted, along with Gil Hodges.
First time 3 Latinos are being inducted.
Wonderful. And who better to chaperone the people through Cooperstown and give them a chance to see something fantastic than my buddy Julio Pabón.
It's a picnic day. It's a family day. So if you're not into baseball, your wife is not into baseball, but you are, bring a picnic basket, lay on the lawn, watch the thing, and you go have fun.
And in an beautiful upstate New York town.
Oh, yeah.
Julio, thanks so much. Enjoy the Derby. Let's go, Pete Alonso, and enjoy the game. And
it was a pleasure.
We'll see you around. Thank you.
God bless. Take care, fellas.
Folks, we'll be right back with more.